All right, blessings, everybody. Blessings, blessings. Good afternoon on this wonderful Wednesday. I just want to take a moment to create a quick video for the members of our tribe that did not have the opportunity to link up with us during our live earlier in the week. There was a couple questions that came up that were really good questions, and I'm going to actually just because they're such good questions, I'm actually going to go live at some point to address some of these questions. But for the right now, on the here and now, let me just share out with you a few of these questions, and we will talk more about it. And I'm going to actually go in the reverse order because this is a good question here. How do you feel about HOAs? HOA, everybody, is a uh, home housing occupancy authority. I may be screwing up. The more significant thing is when you have a really closed neighborhood, high-end neighborhood, you'll have an HEO group that kind of governs how everything works. Excuse me if I'm getting the language wrong. But the overall question is a good one. It is if if the HOA has no restrictions, excuse me, on short-term rentals, could they change their minds down the road if you start your short-term rental business? And if so, what protections can you create for yourself? Great question, because absolutely HOAs do and can change over time. And what you should do to mitigate risk is just simply using the current lease agreement that we have. It gives you room to create an addendum and the addendum can be very simple. And the addendum could just say, in the event that the HOA rules change around short-term rentals, um, we and all parties connected to this leasing agreement have the capacity to end the leasing agreement with no penalty to ourselves based on the change midterm in our leasing agreement. And so you're literally letting them know that you're going into this in good faith, but if something changes that is beyond your control, beyond the landlord control, there has to be a written agreement, not an oral agreement, that the lease will end with no penalty to yourself or anyone else involved. And, it just allows a much smoother transition if it is all in the original lease. So that's what I would absolutely recommend. And who knows, it may shift back the other way, especially given the fact that a lot of what we're teaching you guys is more, midterm, 30, 60, 90 days, as opposed to one day, one weekend, one week, that kind of feel. That's more short term. But again, don't trip. The shorter the stay, the longer their pay. Okay. All right. Of course, they can decide on changing the rules. If you have something in writing, you have a better chance of being grandfathered in. Okay. Yeah, we just answered that. All right. Let us tackle the second question. How do you deal with parking when parking spots are assigned? And wait for it, free parking is like 2 blocks away from guests. Does that make the guests feel uncomfortable with booking with you? And the best way of going about parking in a situation. Okay, so there's two parts of this question. All right. First part is, should you acquire a property where parking is at a premium? And my short answer is it depends. Um, if the numbers work, then they work. Absolutely never, never acquire something and you things have to work out. Remember, it's 40% occupancy that we're looking at, right? If things have to work out 50%, 60%, 70% of the time, 80% of the time, just to for the numbers to work, don't do it. 40% is our break even. Everything after 40% is our profit. Okay. So the numbers have to work 40% of the time. Now, let me say this. If the numbers work and we have this parking situation, our experience tells us that looking back, 50% of our guests are, using their own transportation, but 50% are not. They're using Uber, or something else. A friend is assisting them from work. So that in and of itself, the inconvenience of the parking shouldn't be your basis for making a decision. So now what you can do, the second part of the question is, will this make the guest uncomfortable? Yes, if they're not aware of it. So if you can accurately communicate what's going on in your listing um, on the front end, so there's a level of transparency and you can kind of come back to it, it will help you. Now, what's the best way of doing that? I would recommend that you just kind of put down a rough draft of whatever you're thinking about, like I do all of the time, and then put it through Chat GPT, and prompt rewrite for clarity or rewrite for professional friendly tone for Airbnb guests, or rewrite so that guests feel safe and comfortable in this situation where there's limited parking. Rewrite for. So put down your original thoughts on paper and then put the tag rewrite for and put it in the Chat GPT and see what comes out the other side. Choose the best product. Okay, so that's how I would address parking. The final question, and I think I went in reverse, but if you have two places that you're looking at and they're in close proximity to one another, will they compete against each other for bookings? Okay, the short answer is this: um, they may. The ideal situation is if you have an Airbnb in one area, city Rochester, and you have an Airbnb in the city of, Baltimore or the city of Maryland, or Maryland's not a city, but that's not you're not competing if you're in two different cities. But as long as you're in the same city, you're kind of competing against each other. So I think the better way of looking at it is, do the properties make sense by way of the formula? We just talked about that. If they're either in formula or they're not in formula. And so if they're in formula, your decision shouldn't be, are they one street away? Are they 5 blocks away? Or that's not how you look at, that's not the best way of looking at it. Again, most of the business clients that we've experienced are going to cherry pick for the most cost friendly rates. So if you are using formula correctly and you need 40% occupancy to break even, you're not going to try to force the numbers by taking on a lease that requires 70% occupancy or 80% occupancy. You know, that is a losing formula. So it is not necessarily a function of whether the place is close in proximity. Is a better question is, are they fitting formula? Do I need to be at a incredibly unrealistic occupancy rate for me to profit? It's not about breaking even, it's about profiting. Okay, so I hope this short video went about 9 minutes, helps everybody. Blessing. At some point, we'll probably do a live and share this with the folks out in social media land. But for right now, tribe, take care. Looking forward to seeing everyone, God willing, tonight on episode 11 of Level Up. Great guest tonight. I'm actually going to be working on the questions right in the next half hour. So look out for the questions. Be brilliant mind on real estate. Remember, 5 ways, only 5 ways of creating generational wealth. And we're in 2 of them right now. First way is a family business. Second way is real estate. Third way is stock market. Fourth way is understanding insurance. Okay. And the 5th way is leveraging insurance by understanding how to do trust. Remember, trust allows you to own nothing but control everything. A trust will allow you to set money aside for your kids, great grandkids, and not have them squander it away before they're of age and understanding to be able to use it appropriately. So those are the 5 strategies. Okay. All right. This gentleman, he's going to be talking about real estate. All right. Real estate. So again, blessings. Take care, everybody.